Hey guys, happy Monday. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Tina van Sachs. I'm a certified sobriety and transformation coach. I help women all over the world change their destructive relationship with alcohol, but it's not just limited to that. It's basically anything that you like to change that is holding you back. We look at your belief systems, your patterns, your subconscious programming, creating awareness, and then with that, we can implement tools that help you change that and become the person you like to become. So today I like to speak about negative self-talk. We all have this little voice in our head that goes all day long and can really affect the outcome of our goals, either in a good way or in a bad way. So negative self-talk can look anything from, like, oh my gosh, I'm just stupid, I can never get this right. I'm just dumb, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I have so many wrinkles. And it starts sometimes as something innocent, but if we don't become aware of it and we don't get it under control, contain it, then eventually it can really lead to anxiety, it can lead to depression, it can lead to self-hatred, which is one of the worst energies you can have, and it can really bring us down and not allow for us to create anything we like to create in life. So the way we speak to ourselves on a daily basis all day long is really, really crucial. Now, I mentioned before that most of us are not even aware of why we say the things we say or what we say to ourselves, right? Or even what we think about situations. Sometimes it's just constantly in our programming and it just runs by itself while we go about our day. And that is why this is so powerful to become aware of it, because whatever our subconscious belief is what tends to happen, is what we tend to manifest. So becoming aware of the programs and the talk that is no longer working for us and that's really detrimental to our growth is the first step. So how do we become aware of self-talk? So there's a few tips that I like to share with you today that helped me in the beginning of my journey when I stopped drinking, and at the end of 2019 I had to take a long break. I didn't drink for the year of 2020, and there were certain tools in the beginning that helped me. I would never thought that I speak negative about myself to myself, and then I heard about that tool where whenever you catch yourself throughout the day that you say something negative, either to yourself or about something, situation, or something that you just think about in a negative way, write it down. So I bought like a little pack of Post-it notes and I wrote it down every single time I caught myself speaking negatively, either about myself, about a situation, about anything negative. And then I did that for a week, and by the end of the week I read through all of it and I was actually shocked. I was really shocked on how negative my mindset was most of the time, and I didn't realize it. I always consider myself to be more of a positive person, but man, I was really stuck in some negative patterns and thinking loops. So that created awareness for myself, and once I had the awareness, it was easier for myself to catch it. I mean, it's not perfect, I'm still obviously not perfect, but it's a start to become aware of it. The second one is name it. Name your inner critic. So, and I'm looking down because I have this little sheets to make sure I don't forget anything. So if you name your inner critic, you disassociate yourself from it, and it's not you. Understand that this is not you. Any thought that we have is just a thought. It's just a thought unless you put more energy into it and unless you take it on. So it's not you, it's just something that is created, but you don't have to act out on it. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to pay attention to it. Just let it pass through you and it goes away. So name it. And then next time you feel yourself talking negatively, just tell her to shut up. So my name is Chris for my alter ego. Chris was also the person that came out when I wasn't so nice, when I was drinking too much. So I kept that name to remind me of anything negative. So whenever I feel I talk bad about myself to myself, I tell Chris to stop it. And immediately it stops and I can shift my direction towards a different outcome, if that makes sense. Next is stop it in its tracks. So if you are like myself, you overthink a lot, then sometimes you can really create a whole scenario with your thoughts that completely puts you in a bad mood. It gives you anxiety, it makes you miserable, you just feel yucky all because of how you think and what you created in your head about a certain situation, maybe about yourself. Let's say for the sake of drinking, you slipped. Oh no, let's do it differently. Let's say you go to an event and you haven't been drinking for a while, but there's this huge event coming up and it's a party and you know that everybody's going to be drinking, that there's going to be a ton of alcohol. And because of how you think about it, you freak yourself out weeks ahead of time already. You might think things like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one that's not drinking. Everybody thinks that I'm going to be boring. Everybody thinks that I have a problem. I don't know how I can be funny without alcohol. I don't know how I can have a conversation with somebody without drinking. How can I even walk into a room full of people not having alcohol? Oh my goodness. And so before this event even happens, you already freak yourself out. You give yourself anxiety about it, all these negative emotions, and you take this on, and it's very hard to create from that energy space. And then the event happens and you stay, with your commitment, you didn't drink, and you might have the most amazing time ever. And so then all this stuff was created ahead of time and it hasn't even happened. So pay attention to stop yourself from creating more than it needs to be. And I am the most professional person when it comes to that, creating things that really aren't there. So it took a lot of work for me to not do that any longer. It still takes a lot of work, but it can be done. Again, it starts with awareness. Stop yourself before it gets too big and just see it for what it is. Really, it's just a thought. It's not you. There's no need to put more into it. Let it pass through and it will disappear. The next thing is talk it out. The worst thing you can do, let's say you promised yourself to not drink or to be on that diet and then you slipped. And you beat yourself up the next day about it so hard, right? So you tell yourself, oh my gosh, I'm just such a failure. I'm such a loser. I'll never get this right. This is just way too hard. Might as well just go back to my old ways. This is just too much work. And then you start isolating yourself. You feel shame, you feel guilt, and you don't open up to other people. That creates isolation. And with isolation, you feel disconnected from others, and that's a really, really bad and dark feeling to be in. And it says shame and guilt grow in secrecy. Don't live alone with your thoughts. So when you feel something that is negative and that you caused because of your actions, speak to a good friend, speak to somebody you can trust. If you're part of a group, then share that in the group that you feel safe in, and you will feel supported and uplifted and not labeled or judged. We are our own worst enemy, and we tend to beat ourselves up so hard that other people would never do that. So by sharing what happened, what's on your heart and how you feel and what you're going through, you can give others the chance to support you and love you, which in return gets you out of that funk and helps you become nicer to you and gets yourself, up to a higher level, which brings me to the next point. Think possibly, not positively, possibly. And I say that on purpose because sometimes when we're really down on ourselves and we're in this bad space and this bad energy, just simply saying, okay, now I think something positive and I'll snap out of it, most of the times just doesn't work. It doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel authentic, and it's very hard to do, to just all of a sudden snap yourself out and think of something positive. But what you can do is think of something neutral that opens up a positive possibility. Does that make sense? So instead of going from apathy or complete depression and hopelessness to, woo, I'm so positive and everything is great, you can go from hopelessness to maybe anger. That's already an emotion that's a little higher than hopelessness, because now you have energy. You create energy, you get mad about something, and maybe you start doing something about it. And then you get courage to start doing something about it. And then with courage, you find hope. So you see how this works? You bring yourself up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And there's a scale, the 7 levels of energy that I studied and that I love doing that stuff. It's because we are all energy, and it's how our thoughts affect our emotions, our actions, and what we create for ourselves, and how you can bring yourself slowly up the ladder, so to speak, to the higher energy levels. The higher energy you have, the more you can create, the lighter you feel, the more positive things come to you, the more you open up your eyes to other possibilities. But if you're like in this negative, just not feeling good, self-loathing, self-criticism, self-hatred, all these horrible emotions, you're in this tunnel vision. You cannot see all the opportunities that are knocking on your door because you just focus on that one thing. So just try to get to a neutral place where you can lift yourself up a little bit higher. And yeah, that's it, to help you identify and become aware of self-talk. And then the last two things I wanted to touch upon, not trying to make this too long again, is how to keep in a positive self-talk environment. So how do you keep talking positive to yourself? How do you keep this up? So with anything that we do in life, it's practice. It's not going to happen overnight, right? But if you really practice those things that I explained, those steps daily, eventually it becomes a habit. Anything we do over and over and over repetitively eventually becomes a habit. Once it becomes a habit, it gets anchored in your subconscious programming. You don't really have to think about it anymore. And my two biggest tips are: be your best friend, be your biggest supporter. We are so hard on ourselves and we beat ourselves up so much all the time. Would you talk to yourself like, would you talk to your friend like that? Would you talk to your children like that? Would you talk to anyone that you love like that? When somebody loves you and hears how you talk about yourself to yourself, they are offended because it hurts. It hurts when you talk to yourself about that so badly. So just try not to do that. Celebrate little successes. See how far you have come. Be proud of yourself. Be supportive. Be your biggest supporter. Be your fan. You're in this self-growth development, whether it's stopping to drink, whether it's trying to break another bad habit. It's work. It's hard work. If it would be easy, everybody would be doing it. There's a lot of people that live in mediocrity and they're okay with that, and there's no judgment here. But you are not okay with that, and you're doing something about it, and now you realize, man, this stuff is hard. And it is hard, but again, it can be trained. You can train yourself to look for the good. You can train yourself to speak to yourself possibly. You can train yourself to look at what you like about yourself, what do you like about your body, what do you like about yourself in life. If you look at this, there's this wheel of life, and it's like a pie, and it's spiritual, emotional, physical, financial, relationship, and see what areas are working for you, and be grateful for those. Every day be grateful that those areas are working, and with this energy of gratefulness, then go and work on the things that you like to improve. But you're doing it from a higher vibration rather than coming from despair and just a negative feeling. It's very hard to create from that space. So focus on what you have, be thankful for what you have, be your biggest supporter, and really just look for the things that are working for you and that you like about you, instead of all the things you do not. And then the last thing is, check your expectations. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is. And if you're too hard on yourself, if you put too much pressure on yourself, chances are that eventually you might crack. And then when you crack, most of us beat ourselves up, and we're back in that cycle. When we beat ourselves up, some of us say, oh, well, screw it, I might just go back to where I started and don't even try again. And some of us come back and try and try and try and try. There's no failure. You just keep learning from it and moving forward. Expectations are great, but keep them in perspective, and just know that nobody's perfect. And there's a sentence that I really like, that I like to end this call with today. Make it possible to find joy and contentment outside of perfection. Make it possible to find joy and contentment outside of perfection, because nobody is perfect and you're doing the best you can. This was my Monday motivation. You can find me at www.tinavonsachs.com or email me at info@tinavonsachs.com. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you guys next Monday. Bye.